Hello and welcome to Superpower Broadcasting. I'm your host, Kevin Castley. Thank you for tuning in today. So, I wanted to discuss the terror event that's just taken place in Auckland, New Zealand. I was originally going to be streaming about Afghanistan again tonight, but as I was getting ready to stream, I saw in the news that this had occurred in Auckland, and so I wanted to discuss this. And so, this is from CNN. ISIS supporter shot dead by New Zealand police after shoppers stabbed in terrorist attack. So, what's interesting to note here is obviously, so this is an ISIS sympathizer. This is somebody who obviously radicalized into Islamism, going and carrying out another attack in New Zealand. Now, there was, of course, the Christchurch attack that occurred a few years ago, and I'm noting right now that our rendering, at least on the Chiron, is really delayed. I'm not sure what's going on with that. It could just be intermittent internet issues. Okay, it seems to be fine now. As I was saying, the Christchurch attack was another one of these terrorist attacks perpetrated by religious extremists in New Zealand within the last few years. And that one was against, obviously against a mosque, and in this case, it was against the people shopping in a Countdown supermarket in Auckland. So we'll go to the story, but I did just want to note there. I mean, this is something that has afflicted New Zealand now. This is the second time of religious radicals carrying out these types of attacks. And what's the commonality behind both? Oh, that's right, religion. So you often hear these absolute losers, idiots, try to argue that religion is somehow a net benefit for society. I had some just brainlet earlier today on Twitter trying to tell me that, religion reduces crime, this kind of stuff. It's like, oh, is that so? Turns out religion increases terrorism. It turns out religion actually increases poverty. A lot of crime is stemmed from poverty. You can imagine if we had done away with religion centuries ago, that we would be in a much more productive and equitable state in the world right now. So, no, it's always religion that links these things together. Let's be clear about that. So, hopefully, the audio is coming through fine on your end. I know the Chiron's really struggling right now. It's weird. We got a great internet speed, great internet upload, great internet download. I'm not sure, maybe it's just they're tinkering around with the system when they think that nobody's streaming. But here I am, 4 in the morning, streaming right now. So, and there are 10 of us here tonight. So, thank you for tuning in. What was I going to say about this? Well, yes. So, before we get into the article, I do just want to note here, for the record, just so we're clear, this is another line, just like the Christchurch attack. It's another one of these cases where religious people are carrying out attacks against innocents. So, and again, this is something that would not be happening if it weren't for religion. And now, obviously, in the discussion around this, in the discussion around these terror attacks, they often talk about motives. They often talk about, oh, what was the ideology, the manifesto, the person behind this. And this is very recent. This is happening just a couple hours ago. I don't have all the information yet. I'll go to the article, but a lot of the discussion, even in the coming days, that's going to play around around the motive of it, right? Around the motive of it is, what was the ideology? It was a Christian, or it was an ISIS supporter, this kind of thing. But it's always this kind of surface level. What was their particular religion? It's never addressing the source of the problem, which is religion itself. It's not ISIS is a huge problem, but ISIS is a subset of religion, right? Christian supremacists are a subset of religion. Both of these things would not exist without religion. So if we look at the Christchurch shooting, for example, now obviously that one killed people. There have been no reported deaths in this, apart from the death of the person involved in the attack. Now, it should be noted that the assailant in this case was put down within 60 seconds, and in fact, authorities over in New Zealand were tracking this guy 24/7 basically because he was a known threat. Now, they weren't able to imprison him, however, and I just want to bring up the details around the Christchurch shooting because in that particular case, yeah, in that particular case, I've got somebody here. We got Mass Creation Broadcast saying it was against religion. Well, yeah, the people that were victims of it happen to be religious. My point is that it's such a surface level analysis to say, oh, what was the particular religion of the person who did it? It's like, okay, but it's all religion, it's all the same. So so the fact that what was his name? I'm not gonna say his name, but I forget the name of the guy who did it. The Christchurch shooting. Uh, um, like you look at their motives for why they're doing what they're doing, and in all of these cases, it's not atheists doing this; it's different religious people killing other religious people. So if you get rid of religion, you get rid of the bloodshed. It's really as simple as that, and we're not really going to see that um, that discussion. You're not going to see that in the mainstream media. You're going to have people say, "Oh, this is awful," and which is true. It's absolutely true. They're going to say, "Oh, this guy supported ISIS," and that's true. But they're not going to have a serious discussion about religion at large. That all religion, the logical extension of it, is what is unfolding in Auckland. It is what unfolded in Christchurch. It is the Nazis storming into Poland. It's the Nazis storming into Russia. It is the the suicide bombers blowing up Israeli kids, firing rockets into Israel. Right. All of that is yeah, basically, yeah, I'm just going to stop the Chiron right now. At least on my end, it's rendering very poorly at the moment. So the internet speed is definitely an issue at the moment. But what I was going to say is that it ignores the fact that this is a problem that is resultant from religion, regardless of whether it's Christian shooting Muslims or Muslims shooting Christians or any other combination of different religious minorities being victims to other religious majorities or vice versa. You get rid of religion, you get rid of all of this. There's no point for it. There's literally no point for it. There is no God. There literally is no God. All that this is doing is holding back humanity. And we're getting caught up in grown adults going and stabbing people in a supermarket because their sky god they have it in their head that their sky god is going to burn them in hell if they don't, basically. This is not something that's worth keeping around, like, at all. And even if you can say to me, oh, well, there's much charity or whatever, it's like, okay, I can say, well, atheists give money to charity too, but whatever. I'll I'll say no to charity and get rid of terrorism. How about that? How about we have an actual systemic safety net? How about we actually have a serious government program to deal with poverty as opposed to charity? Who gives a shit about charity? Again, there are always like these band-aid, weak sauce arguments that are levied in favor of keeping religion around, where it's like, okay, we know that religion does a lot of bad things, but like there's charity, bro. It's like, okay, but we could have basic income and get rid of religion. So there's always a secular alternative that's better anyway. And not to mention, and this is the key point, you could say, well, sure, religion's bad and it does all these things, but you don't want to burn in hell forever. But here's the thing, it's not true. There is no God, there is no hell. So there's literally no point to keeping it around. It's just dead weight. Anything good that can come out of it can be done better by a secular organization or secular motives. And a lot of the bad things wouldn't exist in a secular system. I compare religion to the United Nations. The United Nations is similar. If you got rid of the UN and you had NATO do everything good that the UN does, like peacekeeping and refugees and humanitarian assistance, that kind of stuff, well, they would do it better than the UN. But all the bad things, like having Russia and China there and giving Iran a spot in the Human Rights Council and everything would be gone. So you get rid of it, you do NATO on your own, right? It's kind of the same thing with humanism, anti-theism. You get rid of religion, you have humanist and secular alternatives to it. And what do you know? Now you don't have any of these drawbacks that religion brings. And the only way that you could tell me, oh, well, but what about God or whatever, is if you actually believe in God. But of course, a lot of the advocates of this that you see online aren't even religious themselves. They just want to be edgy. They just want a reason to legitimize their hatred of gays and transgendered people and women. And so they use religion as an excuse to get away with saying the F slur or get away with racial slurs, that kind of stuff, right? That's really all that religion is. It's an excuse to be racist. It's an excuse to be sexist. It's an excuse to be homophobic. And at the end of the day, there's no God. You just hate gay people. That's basically what it is. So in that case, let's get back to the article. So this afternoon, is quoting here, this afternoon at approximately 2:40 p.m. local time, a violent extremist undertook a terrorist attack, unquote. That's according to Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern in a news conference Friday afternoon. Quote, this was a violent attack. It was senseless, and I'm so sorry it happened, unquote. As I mentioned, the suspect or the perpetrator here was shot dead within 60 seconds of the start. But in that 60 seconds, they managed to stab 6 people, unfortunately. So this is, like I said, I mean, this is a situation in which you've got obviously radicals operating within your country, and it's a really unfortunate situation. And I think that it is worth noting, though, that the police were onto this guy. The police knew that this guy was a threat, and I think it does go to show you the importance of having a role for the government in surveilling the population to protect the population against radical extremism. You often see people that are against what they call police surveillance, that kind of stuff, and everything. It's like, okay, but imagine that the government wasn't actively surveilling this guy. And imagine he starts stabbing people, and now people are calling the police. And now it takes 10 minutes, 15 minutes for the police to arrive. How many more lives might have been affected? Maybe perhaps people might have died, right? If the government weren't actively surveilling this guy. Yet the libertarians and the ANCAPs that I will debate, that have come on my show to debate me, they would argue that that type of surveillance is a violation of his non-aggression principle bullshit. So if we lived in Ancapistan, if New Zealand was a libertarian society, that guy, the perpetrator here, would just be able to stab and stab and stab. Or if it's libertarian, he'd have like 15 fully automatic rifles and maybe a personal nuke, right? Depending how ANCAP we're going to go, and kill like thousands of people before the police are even called, right? So this is the advantage of the government taking a proactive role in keeping people safe. It's the same reason why I support strong measures to protect people in the no issue that we can't talk about that's been affecting the world for the last 3 years, 2 years. Um, you know, mandatory actions to reduce the spread of that kind of thing. Likewise, here, I support government surveillance. I support government tracking of suspected terrorists. And in this case, while it didn't stop the terror attack from unfolding, the fact that the government did take this guy as seriously a threat as they could without imprisoning him meant that they were there to put him down within 60 seconds of him doing this. There has to be a better way. There has to be a way of taking people that are obviously at high risk of committing terror attacks and putting them in jail preemptively or detaining them preemptively if you have reason to suspect that they were about to commit an attack. Unfortunately, and I don't know the full details of this, that's going to come out over the next few days, that wasn't taken here, but it could have been a lot worse. As bad as it was with 6 people stabbed, it could have been a lot worse. And again, the next time somebody tries to tell you, oh, government surveillance, that's an encroachment on my freedoms or whatever, remind them of this. Well, it turned out government surveillance was very helpful and probably saved lives here in getting that reaction time down to 60 seconds to take this guy out. So, big ups to the government of New Zealand. Big ups to the institution of the state. Once again, serving to protect the people and ward off anarchy. So, there we are. I do want to say, just before we wrap this up, I will have premieres airing to the new YouTube channel starting next week again. And we are doing daily live streams still. If you want to support what I do, and check me out over on Ko-Fi, PayPal, and Patreon. The links are in the About segment of the YouTube channel. And be sure to follow me on Twitter at Kevin Castley, of course, to keep up to date with everything that's going on right now. Obviously, fascists have brigaded and abused the copyright system to strike down my main channel. We're working on that at the moment. It is absurd. These are people who have been harassing me for well over 4 months now. They spend every day thinking about me. I mean, we've had feds in their chat that can clearly see all that they ever talk about is me. And they've harassed my number. They've done numerous doxing against me. And they managed to spam out frivolous copyright against my channel to try to get it shut down. These are fascist warhawks, basically, that are incredibly pissed to see strong atheist, progressive, and liberal interventionists out here on YouTube, and they're trying to shut that down. These people are scum of the earth, and I am 2 years into a 50-year project here of producing content, of producing hawk-pilled and based content, calling for world liberation and human rights for all people. And this does nothing to stop me in that endeavor. We are continuing to produce content. You're watching right now over on Twitch and Periscope. That's not ending. And thank you to the patrons for powering this, and everybody over on Ko-Fi and PayPal that has supported me through all of this. So I appreciate your support. We're going to wrap this up right now, however. I'll be back here tomorrow night. So thank you for tuning in. Have a good night, everybody, and stay based.